Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Great to be with you. Appreciate you joining us. No, I mean that. I do. Appreciate you joining us. Hope this finds you in decent spirits, right? You all right? You hanging in there? I'm Jeff. That's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free. Always don't miss anything. But if you do miss portions of the program, hey, I understand. It happens. Go back, get caught up at your leisure. You can do so both on iTunes. You can do so, or I should say, Apple Podcast. We also put it up on our website, ESPNTallahassee.com. So you got all of that. Real quick, before we even get started, never mind that I'm Jeff and that's Tom. It's more important to note and to wish all the love in the world and support and positive vibes that can be sent Blaine Thomas's way. Bob Thomas, a friend of mine and certainly a friend to all who in some way or another have covered the Florida State football programs in general. I met Bob way back when I first started in radio. He was working for the Florida Times-Union. And I would see him at baseball and basketball and football games, and Bob kind of showed me the ropes. We've been friends ever since. Back then, I hope he doesn't mind, but we'd share dips all the time because Bob was a dipper and I was a dipper. And we would shoot the breeze. And that's a trend that has continued all the way to this very date. Not the dipping, but the sharing of stories and conversations about Florida State athletics. So much so that you go all the way back to his son, Blaine Thomas. I remember he was just a little tyke. I can remember, his kids, plural, getting into sports, in particular track, and I can remember him sharing their exploits and talking about how talented they were and their work ethic. And, of course, I got the good fortune to meet all of his kids and get to know a little of who they are. All great kids and well-adjusted kids, and a bonus to the population, a bonus to the world, and certainly a bonus to this community in which they lived and went to school. And so when I heard the horrific news while I was on vacation this week, I was out at the beach for a few days, about Blaine Thomas being shot in a random act of violence, a drive-by shooting while he was assisting somebody get the keys from their car that they'd locked in their car. It's just a senseless act of violence as described. I was horrified. I think I came to it late because I didn't have my phone on me and wasn't looking at the computer. And all of a sudden I checked before I went to, I think I was going to bed that evening and saw the horrific news. Mouth agape upon reading that, I'm sure for all of you too. But nonetheless, he was shot, underwent multiple surgeries, and is doing much better. And there's been nothing short of positive news and a lot of love, as well as financial aid sent their way for what is necessary regarding the surgeries. And if you go to my timeline, Tom's timeline, Corey Clark's timeline, Ira Schaffel's timeline, anybody who covers the beat, certainly, and many others, you'll see how it is you can aid in that situation. But I just want to send my love and thoughts to Bob and his family, and to Blaine Thomas, his son, who was shot, obviously, and has had to go through multiple surgeries. It's shocking. It's one of our own. Just good people, and all my love, Bob, to you and your family. All right, onward we move, and let's just start with this. First and foremost, MLB, it's great to have you back. Secondly, enjoy these games, people. Enjoy these games, because I'm not entirely certain they're going to continue for all 60 like we'd like them to. It is my hope that they do, and I'm clinging to that hope, damn it. But already the first full weekend of baseball, and what do we get? We get an outbreak, in essence. The Florida Marlins, Miami Marlins, now having up to 17 members of their organization testing positive, which, of course, well, that's more than a third of their rosters. So good luck. They have now been suspended from play, and that sounds dubious. I don't mean that they are punished in some way, but obviously this is the right thing to do for now. Their season is put on hold, put on pause. I think it's about the best news you could get if you're hoping for Major League Baseball to move forward and continue to play baseball games and attempt to navigate a 60-game season. You knew that there would be cases. You knew that there would be positive tests and that there might be moments in which games had to be suspended or moved to be made up at a later date if possible, maybe outright scratched altogether. You knew that you were going to have to be malleable, that you were going to have to be flexible in some way to make this season work. Whether that was, again, make-up games, double-headers, a multitude of double-headers, and or cancellations, and you go by winning percentage like they did in 1981 when not everybody played the same number of games. So it's something you can do, that is to say, up until you have 2, 3, 4 teams that have a similar situation break out. So knock on wood that doesn't happen. I was looking into it earlier today. Could the Marlins bring up guys that weren't on the 60-man? Could you find a way? Would MLB say, all right, well, in this case, we have to make an exception. We have to let them sign players off the scrap heap here in order to play games until these other guys are eligible to come back, which is 2 negative tests in a row. And it may not be as long as you think it is on the surface. It may be that they could come back pretty quickly. One of the players, at least one of the players tested positive, has since tested negative. Meaning that maybe they were asymptomatic and that if they have a second consecutive negative test, they're able to come back rather quickly. So we'll see. It's uncharted territory. Every day we learn something new. But as of right now, the Marlins season has been suspended. Meanwhile, there will be games tonight. You can go home and watch baseball. I would suggest that if you like baseball, even a little bit, you enjoy it because I don't know how much longer we're going to get it.
Yeah, I'm thankful that at the very least, baseball is going to bridge me to basketball and hockey in the bubble. All right, thank you, baseball, for providing that. MLB did release a statement. Finally, they have been awfully quiet other than a closed-circuit television interview that Rob Manfred did with Tom Verducci last night, saying that the Marlins are, quote, postponed through the weekend, that being through Sunday. The Nationals voted today as a team in their clubhouse that they did not want to travel down to Miami this weekend. You can't say you blame them. I think the number one thing moving forward for me is looking at, well, I mean, manager Dave Martinez is a heart issue, and I think they're rallying around him.
He doesn't have to go, but I completely understand where you're going. I would suggest that there are ways, but okay, that's a different conversation.
Sure. Well, MLB would have to be strong and say you guys are going, or the Marlins are coming to D.C. or whatever it is.
That was one of my suggestions. Or again, I would suggest we not have. I know this is difficult. But we don't need road clubhouse. We don't need to do that. You don't need to enter into the stadium to get dressed or anything like that. You come to the stadium dressed, and then we sit in the stands until we start the game. You spread out. There are no fans. Let's go. Let's just start being innovative here and understand that you need to avoid the standard things that we know can lead to problems, including half that Marlins team having to sit on a bus for hours at a time.
Well, why don't we respect the protocols that are in the 100-plus page document that MLB released in the first place about spacing in the dugout? Like, listen, I know that these are inconveniences to the players, but I have no time. I have less than zero time for the number of analysts who said, well, that when they just get fired up, that's their instincts taking over, and that's why they're slapping high five and they're breaking the rules. Just when you get so fired up, you can't help yourself. Of course you can help yourself.
Yeah, no,
that is absurd.
Yeah, you
especially when it comes to you making millions of dollars or not, or in this case, hundreds of thousands of dollars because your salary's already been prorated. That's just insane to me. But what's next up for me is the Phillies results. The Phillies results are the key.
Right.
If they come back with an incubation period time, let's say it's Thursday or Friday, and you've got some positive tests, that number 6 to 10 players, you've got a real huge issue on your hands. We'll see. It might not be the case because they space out fairly well. But if you listen to some of the reporters on the field in Philadelphia, the people that covered the team locally, the guys were on opening day standing very close to each other, hanging out on the ball field. And what it does to me is it signals if you're not going to respect the protocols when the cameras are rolling and the 9 innings are played, then what are you doing after the game? What are you doing before you get home? Are you respecting the rules then and going straight home?
Yeah, no, I don't know the answer to that, and I don't want to speak, for all the players and suggest that they're being responsible after games. I actually think they'd have a better chance to do that than they would or than they have. How about that? The standard ingrained reaction and celebratory acts after a home run or a walk-off win or a big strikeout or whatever it might be. I think that those players and players in general who come up in baseball their whole lives are so used to, a guy hits a 3-run home run to walk off or a 2-run double to tie the game in the 8th, and he gets into the dugout at the end of that inning. I think they're so used to fist bumping, to high five, and to celebrating in the moment that to some extent I do think they get carried away. I'm not saying you can't overcome it. You have to overcome it. You don't have a choice. If you want to continue to play baseball and have moments in which you can feel a celebratory emotion like that, then you have to find a way to avoid the actions that come after that moment, which is to just say, celebrate and place and point at one another. It's not hard.
They do that. I mean, you already have some players who's rounding third base pointing at the third base coach and
Yeah.
saying, right,
Got
you,
you,
man,
brother.
you,
Got
man.
you, yeah.
I saw this weekend on Sunday, Eloy Jimenez out in Chicago, Southside. He runs into the wall. He doesn't know his home ballpark all that well. He's going back on a fly ball. It ends up being a home run. He slams into the wall. He's concussed, clearly, which they still let him play for an inning, and he had to come out later. Anyway, the trainer comes out, doesn't have gloves on, has his mask below his nose, and is touching Eloy physically. Like he's checking his hands. There's physical contact between the two. This is a trainer. He doesn't have his mask in the right place. Listen, I mean, you can get into, the crazy arguments that you want to on Twitter about masks and all that stuff. This is the protocol you signed up for if you're a player as part of the Players Association in order to give yourself the best chance to make the most money possible. That's what you have to abide by at that point because you signed an agreement to say, all right, we're going to do all of these things. And you're seeing trainers, managers. I'm seeing huddles around the mound before a pitching change. Everybody is just like they were pre-COVID. Guys.
Well, this should serve as the ultimate warning, not that anything that the Marlins did or that the Phillies didn't do or did result. We don't know how the players contracted the virus. We don't know. We don't know that yet. There are any number of stories out there about how it possibly happened, but we don't know. But what we do know is that it's now occurred, and the Marlins season, at the very least, is going to take a different course, and it could derail baseball's attempt to play a 60-game season. So now, again, heightened awareness should serve as a reminder of those protocols of which you speak and that they signed on for. It's also a reminder to me that all guests appear via the Phone Hero hotline. Phone Hero, specializing in iPhone and iPad repair. 2 locations, 2915 Cary Forest Parkway and 833 West Gain Street. Online at phoneherotlh.com. Some Florida State football news in a moment. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. According to Chris Nean, Knowles 247, Kalon Laybourne has been dismissed from Florida State's football team. We barely knew you.
Even though you were around for a long time.
Just not doing a whole hell of a lot. Laybourne has been dismissed due to violation of team policy, said an FSU representative, according to the story. This is a guy that, we thought would be, big-time impact player, 5-star kid, was really, when you got a glimpse, and you did just get a glimpse, but when you saw him and you saw the cutback ability and you saw the speed and you saw the balance, you thought, well, maybe he got something here. As it turns out, in 2019, he appeared in 10 games, 63 carries, 297 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. He also had 10 receptions for 66 yards in 2018. He got hurt. That's not his fault. Missed the remainder of the season after 2 games. You had that moment in the Virginia Tech game. Really, in essence, is what you had. You had a couple of moments in the Virginia Tech game that got you excited, and then good night and thanks for playing.
In a spring game, which whatever.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of spring game MVPs, one of which played tackle for us, even though he was the defensive player of the spring. Rick Leonard.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But just further documentation of the sorry state of things for Florida State lately. But yeah, that stinks for Kalon Laybourne and for Florida State. But I don't know the reasoning for him being dismissed other than a violation of team policy, which I just alluded to in the quote. You hate it because at this point, anybody with talent can help aid a situation if we are to play football. Again, on that note, I'm not real sure how much progress we're making here. I want to be somebody that clings to the hope and the belief that football can be played, that college football can be played and be played in the not-too-distant future. It doesn't feel that way as I sit here today. I don't know, give it 24 hours. Maybe I'll feel different. Unlikely, based on what we're seeing right now. But we do know this. Didn't get a chance to mention this yet, but the NCAA emailed conference football officials to inform them that the season can begin, if at all possible, on August the 29th for all FBS programs. So according to that email, week 0, as it's known, that's a week that's usually limited and protected, so there's only a few games. Not anymore. Everybody can play if they're able to play. NCAA Director of Championships Ty Haplin explained in that email that they wanted to give additional flexibility, obviously due to the impact of COVID, meaning that, again, you give that waiver to suggest that if somehow, some way we can do this and play football and do so safely with student athletes, we'll get started a little earlier, and that gives us some built-in bye weeks if we have to take them, or games to be moved to a different time and place if we have an outbreak somewhere. But, again, that feels like you're just clinging to some sort of hope that things are going to take a turn for the better. And I hope that's true. You don't know. In the coming days, we may find out really something very positive. But it feels like a Hail Mary right now. It really does.
Yeah, to me, a couple things. First of all, that means you got to start camp now, like Monday. You got to get camp rolling to be ready to go for that game. I don't think you want to roll out to week 2 or 3 at camp, and then that's game week. So ideally, if you want to play that weekend, you better start your protocols soon. And I know that was kind of the plan anyway if we were in normal non-COVID times. But if I'm Florida State and I'm looking at that weekend, it's not West Virginia I'm looking at Georgia Tech and saying, can we bus?
Yeah.
And maybe it's the first of 2 that we play. But can somebody bus either down here or up there to go get that game done? But in order for that to happen, you have to have everything ready to go for fall camp and practice and acclimation, all that stuff in about a week's time from now. I don't know. I think it's more likely that we start in late September than, get to week 0.
Well, and I think that we are just buying time right now. I would say this. Listen, if you're a realist, and I consider myself to be, if you take a pragmatic approach here, you would look at the numbers. You'd look at what just happened with the Marlins. You'd look at any number of examples, and you'd say, I don't see how this can happen. I don't know how this is going to go off without a hitch. As we sit here today, you would say that this doesn't look likely to happen. But it doesn't mean that it can't happen in October. Now, we would look at different percentages and argue about which is more accurate. I still think even October seems, in my mind, unlikely, but that's okay. We can differ on that. We can argue about that. It certainly would change the percentages because I would say there's almost a 100% chance you're not doing a damn thing in August. So why not hold on to that hope and push things back? You ought to. You might as well. There's no race to the finish line here to embrace the damage done by COVID. We're not all like, hey, screw it, throw your hands up in the air. I get the reason you're not that way. One of those reasons is financial. Another is that it's good to cling to hope. I'm a pretty positive person by nature. Certainly not afraid to point out the negative in the world, but I'm a positive person by and large. And if I, want to look at October or November as a start time, and you could say that is problematic and difficult and logistically I don't even know how it's possible, well, fine, figure out a way because nothing is normal right now. Nothing about how you would go about anything is normal right now. So we've got to figure out ways. In the interim, let's hope something comes down the line, a piece of great news from medical science that allows us to have this happen. Up until that time, I think that obviously then these kind of little moments on a week-to-week basis in which the NCAA announces a new protocol or says something like this, or a university such as Ohio State says, okay, 20% in our stadium if we play, and, conference-only games, which is what we were talking about last week. Well, that to me right now is staving off the inevitable, but I'm okay. I'm in favor of staving off the inevitable for now.
Yeah, it looks like the conference officials will be meeting in some form this week and next week, and by the 5th or 6th of August, they hope to have a little bit more clarity on exactly what path they're going to take. I think, if you're not in favor of being mother hens as a university athletic department, as a football program, you better get in favor of that real soon. I think that if you're going to reduce the enrollment of people on campus, let's just say you bring freshmen, you bring seniors, and then, if you're in the middle 2 years, we'll see you in the spring, if we see you in the spring. If you free up dorm space, that's the only way this thing's going to work. And then you secure the dorm as though it's its bubble. It's like Disney World property right now.
Yeah.
That you have to create a bubble. I think that's the only way you can start this fall, honestly. I think you have to create those types of protocols, and I don't know that they have the resources to do that right now. Certainly we're cash-strapped as it is, but I think that's the only way to be able to pull this thing off if you're trying to get football by Labor Day weekend, because maybe we get to the start date, and maybe it works at that point. By week 2, by week 3, with full enrollment on campus or partial enrollment on campus, and the kids are allowed to go out on the weekends or go wherever they want to go.
You're not going to get full enrollment on campuses.
Even if it's 20% like I talked about. Okay, so let's just say it's freshmen and seniors, and the players are allowed to after practice. We'll see you tomorrow. Just be safe, guys. I don't think that's going to work. Human nature creeps in, especially at 18, 19, 20 years old.
Especially amongst kids who almost by necessity at that age are uber selfish. And you're just not going to get them to make decisions for the greater good.
And is that the ethically right thing to do? I'm not even arguing that. I'm just saying if you're trying to pull it off, I think that's the only feasible way to do it is to create a campus bubble within the campus.
So the bottom line is it does look like a very, very, very difficult path forward. But again, I am not a guy that's going to say that I don't believe it is possible in any way, shape, or form. Not yet. I just think it's highly unlikely. I don't expect to see college football next month, and I'm not sure I expect to see college football in September either. But I'll hold out hope that I do in October, and maybe in 3 weeks I'll tell you it ain't happening in October either. I'm not going to run from that reality, but I'm also not going to discard that we get some sort of incredibly good fortune or good news to come our way, and we find out there's a path. There's somehow, some way. I don't know. It could be really strange. It could end up being a 6-game schedule in a bubble where you play Georgia Tech and UCF and USF and Florida and, a couple other teams. I don't know.
Sponsorship dollars in there for TV money. You could probably find a way to come up with some extra dollars. I mean, it's obviously you look at the Chick-fil-A Bowl and the Kickoff Classic and how the payout comes from attendance. But we don't live in a world where attendance is a thing anymore.
It's not going to be a thing right now, no.
But if you can add a couple of ads to the field and then you create all-access programming or something along those lines within the bubble, there are ways to generate dollars.
That's what I mean. That's what you can't see coming. But again, you got necessity being the mother of invention. Who knows? They might very well be talking about something right now that we haven't even thought of. That once, unleashed or revealed is a better way of saying it. Next week or something goes. Oh well, you know what? That might work. So we're all going to play at what was the old Sundome.
The Sundome. I haven't thought about the Sundome in a long time.
I was a kid. I think I was 12 when I saw you two there with Red Ryder.
I saw far less prestigious acts there.
Yeah.
I saw Mighty Morphin Power Rangers when I was 8 years old. Well, I was 8, so it was cool.
Yeah.
And I saw a WWF house show, and it had The Rock, Stone Cold.
I saw plenty of
era.
wrestling there. Yeah, I saw Saturday Night's Main Events there, which was the big USA Network showdown. And I remember seeing Roddy Piper against the Missing Link. Woo! You probably don't remember the Missing Link.
That sounds like that could have gotten dicey.
No, he was green and he spit weird venom and stuff like that.
Oh,
He had
that's
spiky black hair. Yeah.
That's been a gag even when in my time.
Oh yeah,
the guys with the
spitting,
the green mist.
Yeah, it made no sense, but there he was.
Like it was acid or something.
Oh yeah, you're like he spit on him. Which you would never do in the time of COVID. You cannot be that character now. No, not good. Jeff Cameron Show 97.9 ESPN Radio. You just heard Fultonevich, or the news about Fultonevich being sent down to the designated for assignment. Yeah, that'll happen when your fastball is down 5 miles per hour. Like, that is alarming. And, of course, I can't imagine that it did him much good to be on the wrong end of one of the most embarrassing moments in postseason history.
No, but he pitched really well in Game 2 of that series.
Yeah.
I thought the quote from Snitker was the telling one. They're frustrated beyond reason with him, not just because of his repertoire. He said last night that, well, Fulte is a stuff pitcher, and he has been for a long time, and the stuff's gone.
Well, that's what I mean.
But what does that tell you about his attitude towards being a pitcher and trying?
Oh, sure. Yeah, he's still trying to blow people away, and he doesn't have it. I mean, when you're down 5 miles per hour, guys are tattooing, evidently. So, may have to change your ways or figure out why it is. The MPH is gone.
Yeah,
that ain't good.
It sounds like they had an issue with him being stubborn or some such subtext.
Sure it does.
And they said, we're done with you.
Yeah,
Enough.
Yeah. Well, and we also don't like getting our head kicked in every other start in which you take the mound. So you're going to have a good day. That's how that goes.
They've got a lot of young arms to replace him, too. They're not wanting for anything right now.
Yeah, they're not. So, speaking of baseball, I have thoroughly enjoyed what we have so far, despite the fact the Pirates blew a 4-run lead in the ninth yesterday. That's a toughie. That's a tough one. That never gets easier. Even in the midst of embracing the return of baseball and my enthusiasm surrounding it, blowing 4-run leads made me not miss baseball as much immediately. I was like, oh, yeah, that's what that feels like. That a-hole just blew a 4-run lead in the ninth.
I could tell you
that's a toughie.
So last night, it's I didn't even have to worry about Sunday's game. I knew it was going to be terrible because Rick Porcello doesn't have any stuff. Speaking of not having any stuff.
Speaking of devoid of stuff.
It's, the pitch that Beltran didn't swing at in 06?
Yeah,
that's every pitch.
Over the heart?
It's 86 over the heart every time. I don't understand that move. But, okay, I'm embracing every pitch I can get because I'm just so happy to be watching the game.
You and me both,
The
buddy.
crowdlessness doesn't bother me. It's
Not at
fine.
all.
It's 2-1 count, mano a mano. Let's see what the pitch is. I get lost in that, and I fall in love with it. So then in comes Jeurys Familia last night for the Mets. 7-2 lead. You're trying to keep Seth Lugo ready for tonight because it's going to be a bullpen game.
Looks phenomenal.
Of course he does.
Oh, man, he looks good.
So
Lugo is dealing.
3 pitches in, you could tell he doesn't have it. And here we go. A 20-minute experience
Here we go.
in which he gives up 2 runs, tie runs at the plate, and Seth Lugo has to come in and you have to warm him up. And now you can't use him tonight because we had to use him for a 4-out save that should never have been a save situation. Yeah. And I remember that even though I miss baseball a lot, there are times when I want to turn off the television.
Well, but you could have been watching your team blow a 4-run lead in the ninth with a chance to get to 500 on the season. Suddenly, in a shortened season, 2-2 seems great. Yeah. 1-3 feels devastatingly bad. And when you have a 4-run lead in the ninth, in order to get to 2-2, it's a foregone conclusion that you have this game won. You go to bed, wake up, and see that it didn't happen, and thank your lucky stars that you closed your eyes without watching the 4-run lead be blown, because I was tired from having gone swimming all day in the ocean with my kids. So that's how that went. There you go.
Yeah, instead, I'm looking at somebody who lost 20 pounds and is much better mentally. And he's taking something off the splitter to control it, and he spiked 5 of them in a 10-pitch sequence. And I'm thinking, really? So 5 more years of this? We're going to re-sign him again?
So here's what you do get, though, and I'll note this. All of the news could be a lot worse. You could be, sadly, in this situation, not to make fun, a Marlins fan, which their season is suspended by Major League Baseball amid an outbreak of COVID-19 cases that resulted in now 15 players, 2 staffers, 17 members of the Marlins testing positive from Friday to Tuesday. Baseball official with direct knowledge of that decision had noted it just before we came on the air earlier today. It became official. But it's a pragmatic pause. Speaking of pragmatism, here you go. I mean, you've got to do that now. Now, sidelining a team in a 60-game schedule becomes problematic.
Right, yeah. There's only so many off days you have.
So, they may not play a full season. Bottom line is the Marlins may not play a full season. Nobody's playing a full season, but as a full season as it's currently constructed, 60 games, they may not be able to do that. There is precedent for that. 1981, go back, not all teams played the same amount of games. They went by winning percentage. You could do something along those lines if you have to with the Marlins. I obviously first and foremost. You have concerns for those players, and obviously you don't want anybody to get really sick, and so you'll continue to monitor that situation. But beyond that, I have to tell you, and I hinted at this when I was talking to Matthew Leach, MLB.com, last week when we previewed the season. I wasn't sure the Marlins were going to be exciting this year. They had the makings of a team to be really exciting in about 2 years, like as in they could be a problem in the division. They could really be one of those rising stars. But I thought there was an outside chance there was enough stuff there, both from the rotation and then their young stars in the field, to make it an interesting go at 60 games. And, that's a franchise that I have some affinity for. My one of my best friends in all the world worked for them for over 13 years, and I tend to root for baseball to work in the state of Florida, whether that be the Rays or the Marlins in general. I want the state to have prosperous baseball teams.
By the way, Rays games are louder than they've ever been before with the crowd noise. I mean, I'm not kidding. If everybody else is turning it up to 4, they're up to 9.
Well,
oh my God!
I had a lot of reasons to cheer against the Braves, that's for sure. But one thing to note is, that Marlins team were better than the Phillies over the weekend and fun to watch, and I think might have been interesting moving forward. And now, you're going to get in an even more problematic situation during the pandemic, in which they play fewer games, and I just don't know how this is going to be handled. Obviously, knock on wood, over the next 2 to 3 days, that we see some of these guys are able to get back because of back-to-back negative tests, or that they're asymptomatic and then they have back-to-back tests that, come out negative.
There's also local pressure from the mayor of Miami-Dade, who today said since they've been exposed to COVID and outside of Miami-Dade area, when they come back, they should quarantine for 14 days. Not that they're ordered to, but they should. So you've got all kinds of local pressure there now as well. But MLB whiffed again here. They had an obvious out in the schedule. Next week, the Phillies and the Marlins were set to meet again. Mm-hmm. And next week, the Yankees and the Orioles were supposed to play 3 games. Now, they had alternating off days, where one series had a Monday off day and they go Tuesday through Sunday, and that's how they go. The other one was Monday through Wednesday with a Thursday travel day. But they could have yesterday said, you know what, too much heat on the Phillies and Marlins. Let's put the Yankees down in Baltimore and have those 2 play right away, get those 3 games cleared.
They are going to do that now, right?
They're going to get 2 of them done,
yeah,
but they could have gotten all 3 of them and then put the Phillies and Marlins in a position to play each other.
They're going to have to be very aggressive from a scheduling standpoint. They've got to look ahead. It's not unlike driving. It's not unlike being on the highway. You've got to look at the car in front of you, yes, but what about the car in front of that car and the car in front of that car? If that dude slams on his brakes, you've got to have a course of action in your mind. We all know this. Major League Baseball has to be looking at that the same way. Okay, what if we have a problem in New York? What if we have a problem in Philadelphia? What if we have a problem down in Miami? What are we going to do? There should be groups sitting around thinking about these things. Well, according to the schedule, the way we have it set up here, we could do this, 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 and this. You've got to have these options ready to go right now. Time is of the essence, as John Gruden would say. Got to get there. Let's go. You're right. You can't. But baseball is always a step behind. Baseball is always the one lagging behind, especially when it comes to making sound, logical decisions in a timely fashion. Never happens. And Manfred blew the interview, which is a cupcake interview. Verducci's interviewing him on MLB Network to react to this situation. He couldn't have come across more tone-deaf than he did. First of all, there was no sense of humanity from the commissioner. I mean, how about a little thought of, I hope the players are okay. I hope those within the organization that have tested positive are getting the help they need and are safe. We're going to closely monitor that situation. Now, as it pertains to baseball, and then you pivot from there after at least acknowledging that there are people who are frightened, who are worried about going home to their families, about being around people on the staff or loved ones. There were no such acknowledgement, a steady effing way to try to get through a conversation that was really catered to you, to have easy answers.
No, he's a complete coward, and here's why. Yesterday, 10 o'clock in the morning is when MLB Central starts, and that's their morning show. They don't put anything on until 10 in the morning. Some other networks do it earlier. So the news broke around whatever it was, 8 a.m., 9 a.m. hour. There are no updates whatsoever on the bottom line on MLB Network. I'm watching this. I'm going back and forth on networks just to see how the discussion is framed. Of course, ESPN's going to break and they're going to talk about it on Get Up. MLB Central starts at 10 in the morning. They address it for about 30 seconds, and then that panel gets right into the scores and highlights from Sunday, and they don't talk about it again. Here's why that's cowardly. Not on the part of those people doing the show.
No,
they're working for MLB Network, and they got to do what they got to do.
Yeah.
You get out and you release a statement. You release a statement right then and there. And then secondly, you wait until 6 o'clock at night.
Sure.
And you do a pre-programmed interview. Those questions are prepared for Tom Verducci.
Those are lobbed, and he's still. And Verducci's a good reporter. He probably hates having to hand over those softballs, and yet, how does the commissioner not hammer those? Those are easy answers.
Well, and those softballs are probably in Rob Manfred's handwriting or his assistant's handwriting. Here are the questions you're going to ask him. Instead of Rob looking into a camera and fielding a press conference and fielding tough questions.
Tough questions, right. Well,
he's a coward.
Okay, so you'll attack whether or not he's brave enough to get out in front of issues. I would argue that he's not quick enough on his feet, and he knows it. He will not go before a camera in a situation in which he can be asked questions that he does not know are coming. So because...
Right. See the Dan Le Batard interview where he gets killed the Miami situation.
Well, and he's had a lot of failures, any number of failures that we've listened to him be at a loss for the ability to pivot and or deflect or answer the question the way politicians do, which is to answer once again what you wished was asked of you. He can't even do that.
Yeah.
So I find it fascinating. They just know now they can't roll him out there in situations in which he can be asked a tough question that he doesn't know is coming.
But think about how on an island this morning show is on MLB Network, that they have to lead, and the reason that they're talking about it is they have to cite Jeff Passan's tweets from ESPN. They don't even have a statement from MLB until 45 minutes into their show.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And then when it's
what was he doing, sleeping?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, is he asleep? Seriously, that's a fair question.
When it's his time to speak, he has to have somebody ask him questions. Think about that. Instead of looking the nation in the eye, if you've got a crisis, you have to go on your own closed circuit network and have somebody lob questions at you in order to, what? Foster a fake discussion? Buster Olney killed him on it yesterday. And Buster also said, hey, man, Tony Clark, I've heard more about you and your thoughts on Alex Rodriguez than you have
about the players,
about the players, the safety of the players. Why don't you two do what you were supposed to do? You're all too happy to leak things to the media when you're getting labor disputes.
Right.
It's time to talk.
Well, one thing to note here now, what are the logistics of this and what are the numbers? Teams are allowed 60 eligible players, 27 not with the major league team, headquartered in an alternate training site. When you've got over a third of your roster testing positive, I'm not sure they have enough here to field a competitive baseball team.
At the major league level,
no. I don't think they do. I don't think they do. Now, you can fill those holes as best you can to move forward, but you're not going to be competitive. The integrity of the game gets affected at this point.
Well, somebody got poached today off of waivers by the Marlins. Can you imagine that, being that guy? Getting the phone call from your agent? You got picked up. All right, by the Marlins.
At that point, you'd say, okay, good, I got picked up. I mean, you want a paycheck. Listen, they're not going to roll him on in there with the infected players and say, hey, meet your teammates. I mean, he's going to be
I'd say,
secured.
The suit that Doc Brown wore when he put the plutonium in? Can I get one of those for when I meet my teammates, please?
Oh, man. I don't know what they're going to do.
They should look at Fulte.
Here he
they
comes.
should look at Bartolo Colon.
88 down the heart, baby.
Well, you know what?
At least Bartolo knows how to pitch with nothing.
Right, he could teach Fulte. It's a great idea. There you go. You get Bartolo to teach Fulte.
Here's how you pitch when you got nothing. First of all, you got to be bold.
We're going to hire Levon Hernandez to come in. He'll also help. Maybe Chris Young.
Man, that would allow me to go Levon likes his money. Yeah, it would be fun.
You get the whole brain trust together. Here's how you win with 88, the best you can.
What you can't do, Fulte, is throw this one down the heart thinking you're going to sneak one past him. He's got time, even if he's fooled.
The other thing for baseball is how many injuries there are. Big name pitchers, big name players, specifically pitchers.
I worried about pitchers from the get-go, but I worry about pitchers at the start of every season, even after they've had their full allotment of time to ready themselves for games, because there's nothing quite like pitching in a real game with adrenaline. No game that's played in certainly spring training ever equates to a major league regular season game. And so you see it every year. Somebody gets hurt. Somebody, reaches down to throw 98 in a big situation in a game that matters, and boom.
I know I'm forgetting a few, but Verlander, of course, is shut down. It was reported season. He's saying
weeks, yeah. Any injury with Verlander or anybody hit his age, I'm going to chalk that up to happenstance and not the situation. I would have said, well, he's old. People get, you pitch at that age, you get hurt.
Another one, Corey Kluber is injury prone, but he got 1 inning in as a Ranger.
He's definitely injury prone.
He tore, I forget what the name of the muscle is in his shoulder, and they say 4 weeks, maybe he can come back and be in the bullpen.
He's done.
I know, right?
You're done. Who are you kidding? The man tore a muscle in his shoulder in a 60-game season. He's done.
But you've got a number of others. I mean, and not just guys tearing muscles like Stroman and his calf. But you've got Ohtani, who couldn't get an out over the weekend because his stuff was lagging.
Well, it lacked
4 or 5 miles an hour.
It lacked the ability to strike out people in high school. What was that?
I was excited to watch that game too.
Well, my God, you got to record. You can't even
record.
record an out by accident. Can we get an Adam ball? Anything?
So we had a lull in the day. The Mets weren't playing until 7:30, and that game was over by 8 anyway. And the Twins were done because they were beating up on the White Sox. So it was like, all right, what do we watch? Oh, Ohtani's going to start. Awesome. 5 minutes later, I'm playing video games.
We're not good. This is over. Hour number 2, forthcoming. Stay with Jeff Cameron, Show 97.9 ESPN Radio. Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Yeah, that's it. Little Lawn Maintenance Tuesday edition of the show. We appreciate you being on board. I'm Jeff, that's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. You can reach out if you'd like via the email, jcs@979ESPNradio.com. You can follow us on Twitter at @JCameronShow. Also, the show is on YouTube if you'd like to see it being performed. And on iTunes, I should say, Apple Podcasts. Go there, and if you're so inclined, share it with your friends, rate it highly, whatever. That's what they tell me to tell you. So there you are. And, that first hour was what you would think it would be, which is us mentioning that LeBaron will not be playing football for Florida State this year if we play football at all. Major League Baseball's got a little bit of a problem on their hand, although I've enjoyed what I've seen up to this point. I am wondering more and more each minute that goes by just how the NFL is going to navigate these waters. We did not touch on that last hour, Tom, and you have a number of NFL players opting out. That process has begun, coupled with some of the other things we talked about, which the NCAA announcing yesterday that they would allow the season to start in what is normally considered week 0. Now that can begin for any team, anywhere. If there's going to be a season, you can start it August 29th if you'd like. No special designation, just that, hey, you can get playing if you'd like to.
I'm sure there are some athletic directors who would say that would have been useful 10 days ago. Hello.
Well, we've talked a lot about whether it be Major League Baseball and the clueless Rob Manfred or any other league for that matter, and their ability to adapt, to adopt new methodologies and to overcome. It's not going to be easy. In some cases, there may be things that you simply can't avoid that will be the ruin of your season. We don't know. Certainly right now, baseball is holding its breath, for example, that the Marlins season, which is put on hold because of the COVID-19 outbreak that has struck the club, maybe it is just them. Everybody holds their breath as they await the Phillies in what their reports are, their test reveal. That's what everybody's holding out hope for right now.
Yes, the initial report from Philadelphia is nobody tested positive today. Yeah. One visiting clubhouse attendant did, but that was obviously helping the Marlins out. That person was. But if there's an incubation period, then you need to test them again tomorrow and Thursday. And then hopefully by Friday you're satiated to the point where you can say, all right, now Toronto, Buffalo Blue Jays, whatever you guys are calling yourselves, keep your distance, but we're going to play this ball game now, and we'll continue to test the Phillies into the weekend.
And then one by one, the one league that you really figured would forge ahead is the National Football League. Like, college seems to be very much up in the air, very much in doubt. Some of that is for obvious reasons. You're not talking about paid athletes with a union. You're talking about student athletes. And no, their little stipend doesn't count. So you look at the NFL, though. They're professionals. They do have representation, and there is an awful lot of money to be lost individually by their players. So they may be willing to put themselves at greater risk to secure said money. And they have that choice. They can also opt out. And what you're watching now is, one by one, more and more players from each of the teams in the National Football League are opting out. I'm not saying in mass, but if you want to go in alphabetical order, the Baltimore Ravens, the Anthony Thomas, he's a reserve wide receiver and return specialist. He's decided, look, I'm voluntarily opting out. He joined the Ravens last season after being with the Chiefs since 2014. Backup offensive tackle Andre Smith has opted out as well. So depth a factor there in Baltimore for two backups opting out. Buffalo nose tackle, you say it, Lula
Star Lotulelei?
Yeah.
Is it Star?
Yeah, it's Star.
Oh, okay.
He's opted out.
He should be a major league pitcher.
Mm-hmm. He's opted out. 14th pick of the 2014 draft. And, oh, by the way, that, if you remember, with the Carolina Panthers. And the funny thing about that, Tom, is not only that I can't say his name and I instead go but also I remember that being a good pick and thinking, man, he's going to be a tear in our division, and thinking that it happened last year, and it's 2014 that it happened. Jesus.
Wow. Weren't even in this building yet.
It's nuts. He started all 32 games for the Bills the past 2 years. He's got a heart condition. You could understand why he said, yeah, no, I'm going to opt out. The Bears and former Knoll, Eddie Goldman, he is opting out. He's a key piece to that defense. Goldman's Pro Football Focus grade a year ago was 17th best amongst all interior defenders. Cowboys, Canada has opted out, and Stephen Guidry opted out. No big deal there. Broncos have lost Kyle Petco. Texans, man, Vanderdoes, he's done as well. It's like you can go. Every team has lost somebody.
Wait till you get to the ends here.
Well, defensive tackle Michael Pierce, who signed a 3-year, $27 million deal this offseason, was the only free agent addition of note for Minnesota. He's opted out.
Yeah, he's got asthma. Needs an inhaler.
Patriots were hit hard.
Here we go. New England, the ends.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough year in New England. Multiple starters and key contributors are opting out. Pro Bowl linebacker Dante Hightower, starting right tackle Marcus Cannon, they're both gone. Running back Brandon Bolden, fullback Danny Vitale, offensive lineman Najee Turin, safety Patrick Chung, sixth player for the Patriots to opt out. They know what kind of year they're about to have in New England.
Yeah, I think
Let's call it a day here, boys.
Belichick's probably all hung up over Dan Vitale, the fullback.
Yeah.
Just a guess.
Yeah.
No, not Vitale.
No! I could have done with all those other bums on the bench. Not Vitale. Tight end Cole Wick opted out of the season, according to Mr. Tom Pelissero of NFL Media for the Saints. He's not going to play. He played in 6 games last year for the Lions, 8 games for the 49ers in 2018. Offensive lineman Kola Matagi for the Jets has opted out. I think I got that right.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Kola Matagi. Yeah.
Well, I don't know about the second time.
Marquise Goodwin has opted out for the Eagles in a trade with the 49ers this offseason. He'll sit out the season. He and his wife had a daughter in February. They said no thanks. They've had trouble with their previous pregnancies, and unfortunately, and so anyhow, he's opting out. Chance Warmack opting out for the Seahawks, a 2013 first-round pick. You get the drift. I could go through every team. I'm not going to, although I nearly have.
You're almost home there. You're in the S's.
Yeah, but I realized, let's not do this. Dalvin Cook did show up to Vikings camp. Took a COVID-19 test. He's there. That's got to be a good sign for the Vikings.
They're getting closer, yeah.
But more and more players are opting out right now in the NFL for their upcoming season. We'll see what the first time. There've been only, what would you say there? You had a Pro Bowler, you had a couple starters. Nothing major just yet. But.
Yeah, according to Greg Allman down for The Athletic covering the Buccaneers, he reached out 36 player representatives, and some might be redundant. But Donovan Smith is the only Buccaneer at this time through his research that is considering opting out, starting left tackle for the Bucs.
Problematic that you brought in Tom Brady, who's not exactly mobile, and you could lose your starting left tackle.
What do you mean? They're not going to block for a quarterback in Tampa?
Imagine that. So you've probably kept up because your focus, at least as it pertains to the vast majority of my listeners right now, is college football, right? It continues to be college football. And I think what you do when you look at these pro sports leagues is you look at them as the glimmer of hope. That if they can somehow make it work, then there's a path or a protocol or a way to make college sports work. Not necessarily, but at least that has to work for college sports to work in some way. And so when you see this outbreak with the Miami Marlins, you get really nervous because baseball's not utilizing a bubble the way that many of the other sports are. And sports outside a bubble is going to prove to be problematic, I do believe. It just stands to reason. And already Major League Baseball, in their first full weekend of play, have uncovered the difficulties there. We see that. And we'll see how they operate moving forward. But I am curious. Baseball is a sport where there is an awful lot of natural distance. It's a sport where it's not hard to stay 6 feet apart for the most part. Most of the players in the field are. It's not hard to, keep your distance, sit in the stands. They're not even necessarily asking players to stay in the dugout. You can be awfully careful and adhere to certain guidelines regarding the clubhouse and how many people can be in there at a given time. your interactions with trainers, etc. Certainly, they're utilizing more buses right now to and from the game. I think you could just do away with those and have people, be dressed in uniform and take a cab or whatever it is. But at this point, they've got to look at all options. But you can do these things in baseball in a way that you can't in football, just the very nature of the game. So it's of grave concern when you see this play out this way.
That's where I do have optimism that the Phillies' results as we get later into the week are going to be largely okay. I think so, because of the spacing. I mean, maybe the catcher is in a position where there's going to be an issue. I don't know, though, because the batter's facing out for the most part.
Yeah.
I don't know if the first baseman's going to run into that much of an issue.
I thought about it, first base, third base, depending, but yeah.
I mean, I think the Phillies should be largely okay, but this is where the travel thing really bugs me, is that you're hopping on a plane. And I'm not talking about, maybe even the flight attendant. It could be one of your teammates. One person steps out of line, and you're sitting next to them or whatever it is. You got recycled air for 2-3 hours, and you're sitting in close quarters, and maybe you don't have your mask on because
for whatever
we
reason,
don't wear these things in the dugout.
Yeah, a number of players chose not to in the dugout, yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that's where this bugs me, because you're going to hop on a plane how much more often than you would in a bubble. However many times you're traveling, the bubble, you'd just be there. You're done. You're in.
Bob Bowlesby spoke to ESPN, Big 12 commissioner. He said, we watch everything that's going on around us, and I think we always said that if we're able to go forward and play sports throughout the year, there will be disruptions. I think this is a good example of that. Well, he's right about that. There are going to be disruptions, and how baseball handles this and what happens moving forward will help dictate terms in some of the other sports. So, I am curious to see what they do. They're going to have to be a bit more stringent, I think, especially with their clubhouse/dugout protocol. But, you got to know that if you endeavor to play sports, just by definition of what sports are and the way competition works, you're going to encounter cases. And if encountering cases was enough to prohibit you from moving forward, then don't start. So you can't read that there is a 2 or 3 or 4, in this case 17-person outbreak, and say it's over. I'm glad they didn't do that. It is great cause for concern. But you now have to, quarantine those players and obviously figure out a way with the Marlins. And if that means they play fewer games and you go by win percentage, or if that means that at some point you have to decide the Marlins are out, maybe brutal, not ideal for the Marlins, that's for sure, or those players. But, you've got all possibilities are on the table.
I know I'm not supposed to call attention to it.
Beat the hell out of this mic. So
aggravated. Sounds in that segment.
I'm just so aggravated.
I know I'm not supposed to call attention to it, but I thought I heard an ESPN alert over there.
Yeah.
And what's funny is the time we live in. It used to be I get mad at you for the MLB alerts because I know, well, great, I've got bases loaded.
Somebody
over
just
here.
gave up a double. Or, yeah.
Somebody just gave up a double. We're losing.
Yeah.
But now when I hear it, the season's canceled. That's it. It's all done. I'm just waiting for the bad news. Everything's done. It's all shut down.
Yeah. God almighty. So, by the way, the rumors that surround how these things get started, where in the Marlins case, it didn't take long. I was on the drive over from Cinnamon Beach this morning very early, got the family out, and we had a wonderful stay. Nobody cares about that, but I'm just letting you know we did because you're concerned for me. So
I'll tell you, the real winner is the city of Cinnamon Beach, Florida.
Well,
every time I come here, it gets harder to leave. Excuse me, I got a golf tournament to go win.
Oh, well played. But the Palm Coast was beautiful as always. Anyhow, driving back, I'm listening to MLB Network, and not long after that, I'm listening to them kind of try to, put together the various stories as to what could have happened. And you have everything from a flight attendant to they had to stay on the bus for too long. There was a delay that they ended up being in close proximity to one another for way too long. It is what happens is immediately people want to know who's responsible because there's real anger here. They're putting in jeopardy a lot of people's money and the opportunity to play out this season. It's just 60 games. You're like, guys, can we just adhere to the policy that was put in place? And I'll grant you, baseball is a mess compared to the other leagues. It's because Rob Manfred appears to be out of his league. But I think players instantly turn a John Desai to anybody who's perhaps acting outside the realm of what was considered fair and certainly responsible behavior.
Yeah, up to the protocol standards. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you can bet within baseball circles today, and I'm trying to beat around the bush here, but there are finger pointers involving a player and
Yeah.
a lady friend. So this is always something we worried about.
Yes, this is where it has to have its moment, like Watney, right? And golf. When they had their restart,
Yeah.
and Watney, I don't feel so good. Says I'm negative, but I've got flu-like symptoms. All right, let's tee it up today.
No, man.
And the rest of the PGA Tour, including the commissioner, and then they got wind, apparently. They put out a statement that said, restaurants and bars, if we find out about that.
You recall that I told you from learning from inside the ropes, if you will, that there was allegedly a player and a caddy together
Yeah.
at a bar and was seen.
I figured as much because the next day they released something that said if you disobey our orders about staying in your own damn apartment or hotel room, there are going to be severe repercussions. Which the only reason they'd say that is because somebody broke the rules.
Well, yeah, somebody was alleged to have done so, and obviously you're in the host town of the event. If you're at a nice bar or restaurant and you're a player on the PGA Tour, somebody's going to recognize you and go, yo, man, I don't think you're supposed to be here.
Well, and that's where, okay, I understand HIPAA laws about, releasing personal medical information and COVID testing. But if you're somebody who breaks the protocol, that's independent of your COVID issue. If you break the protocol, you should be shamed. Lou Williams may have been there for the chicken wings and not for the stripping that's going on at that particular gentleman's club. Maybe he was. No matter what, he was duly shamed and put in a 10-day quarantine, and that's the end of it. And the world knows about it.
Yeah.
That's a very powerful detractor, right?
Well, one would hope, but it wasn't enough initially to get him to not do it. I mean, you got to have the foresight to think, if anything goes wrong or if I'm seen, come on, man.
But now he's taking all kinds of heat that he doesn't even want any part of. So if that happened in the Marlins situation and it's investigated and found out, for a certainty that somebody was where they weren't supposed to be, let that come to light and you leak it. I don't care if you put it on an official letterhead, you leak it. Make sure it's known because you got to shame people into doing the right things.
I just know if I'm his teammate, man, we've got problems. First of all, let's idealize this, right? Let's just make it sound as if for the love of the game, they can't wait to play these 60. Okay, that's ideal. But even if that's not it, if there's no purity to the answer and it's that I want my money, I'm beating somebody's ass. We're not having that, man. You rolling out here endangering my money? Now, if I happen to love the game, that's great. But my money, my man, what are we doing here?
Years of service. I'm also playing for the Marlins. Chances are I wouldn't be playing for many other teams. This is my shot.
This is my shot, pal. No, this is a Full Metal Jacket soap in the
I was going to say,
pillowcase.
do you see what happens, Larry?
Oh, yeah.
Except it's not a car windshield. It's your shin.
So it says out for the year. Shin contusions, they say. It's Jeff Cameron, Show 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Forever hollering when we see cops.
This is incredibly petty on my part, but in addition to listening to Rob Manfred stutter his way through what should have been easy answers, I'm also just annoyed by that the confounded look on his face at all times. Have you noticed that? That's just most unfortunate for him. Some people have a look that allows, either they look as if they're in command at all times, that they have a grasp of the situation, the breadth of the situation is not lost on them, even if their answers don't kind of match up with that persona or that demeanor. But it allows you to kind of give them more leeway as they give that answer. And only afterwards, a little later, do you go, that doesn't make any sense. They looked the part, but they didn't say anything of any substance there. That happens sometimes, and they're afforded that little lapse of time. With Manfred, he simultaneously says something stupid or looks befuddled at the same time that the look that washes across his face is that of a scared child. And it bothers me as I watch him give these answers because I know that he's going to say something dumb, or there's going to be some non sequitur in there as usual, and you're like, what the hell are you talking? That wasn't the question. Anyhow, when you're watching that, then he also has that, have you figured me out yet? You're on to me, aren't you? You know I don't have any idea what I'm doing. I'm scared. Leave me alone. That's what he looks like. And it's a little bit petty because some of that is just, as they say, resting blank face, which is not his fault. But that's the look. That's what he's got. When you see it, you go, okay, this guy, he's not sure of anything.
Well, but his actions also underscore that.
Yes.
And on Sunday, you would think he'd make some sort of statement at some point. Don Mattingly has to be the official word on what the Marlins wanted to do. And that the Marlins roster took basically a straw poll vote on a group text to play the game on Sunday.
Yeah.
And then Don's got to stand up for that at the end of the game in his post-game comments. And then you don't comment on it as a league until 10:45 the next day? And then you actually don't go before a camera until 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
A day and a half after the game started. Are you kidding? Whoa, man.
I know you can't fake it. These concerns are real. But when you walk into these interviews or, these questions are being asked of you in which you have to have a command of not only the language, but you have to have a certainty in which there's a plan and this is how we're going to execute it. And here's what we do if we encounter real problems along the way. Instead, there's trepidation around every turn with him. Every time he sits down, within seconds, you get the sense that he's looking for the way out, that he doesn't want to be there, that he knows he's going to get asked a question he doesn't know the answer to, and that it's going to be revealed they don't really have a plan. And that's just not what you want from your commissioner. I'll just say that. If I'm an MLB owner, that's not what you want conveyed, whether it be demeanor or words, from your commissioner.
But if we are the PR firm and we're getting the crisis rate, the crisis hourly rate, and
Yeah.
you're prepping somebody for this interview, it's really simple. You do have a plan, Rob. It's
Right.
called the 60-man roster.
Right.
You've got a 30-man roster that's in the other camp.
27 players that are not on site.
You are built for this.
Yeah.
You are built to withstand these types of things. Now, are the numbers a little higher than we'd like them? Of course they are.
Yeah, no, this is the right answer, Tom. You're correct. He's got to pivot to that immediately because that was the plan. But I don't think they ever expected 17 on the first freaking weekend. So admittedly, you're going to get thrown for a loop there. But you had all day before you had to.
Yes.
I mean, you don't release a statement or do an interview for hours and hours. I mean, you've got time. That's when the crisis team, you, me, and in this case, Major League Baseball and those surrounding him, put him in a room and go, here's the deal, man. We didn't expect 17. That's a bit much. That sucks. But here's what we're going to do about it. At least prep him in a way that he does not look completely befuddled upon being asked the simplest of softball questions the second he sits down.
Yeah, you say you have the extra player pool to handle it, and you look in the camera and say, and we're going to conduct a thorough investigation to make sure that the protocols were followed to the letter of the law. And for those that aren't following them, between the lines during the game and the dugouts during the game, there will be repercussions. And for those that work in the front office, because you can't go to the players first, or else you're blaming the players, and Tony Clark comes off the top rope out of nowhere, and God knows he's a coward too right now.
Yes, he is.
But you look in the camera and you say, if anybody in that front office, anybody who handled the travel protocols, or anybody on that roster itself did not and we find out there will be severe repercussions.
Yeah. I get you can say that, or at least you can imply or infer that something like that is coming down the line. I wouldn't get hung up on those details in the first week in our first setback, but I would certainly get hung up on the idea that we had a plan. We knew we were going to encounter problems. We always knew that setting forth down this path was going to lead us into a difficult direction because we were going to have positive tests. That's just the way of the world right now. Really, any endeavor is you're going to, especially if it's a group endeavor like this, you're going to have positive tests. We were aware of this. It's unfortunate. First and foremost, I'm very worried about the players, and our thoughts go out to them and their families as they go through a difficult time. We got to figure out whether or not they're really sick, whether or not more testing is needed. May very well be we have false positives. We're going to find out, and we'll get to the bottom of this.
You get killed for that.
Well, I don't
the
know.
moment you said false positives.
Well, they did have a false positive.
But then you're scapegoating it on the testing process.
Well, but the problem is they did have a false positive, and it's a common occurrence with COVID-19 testing. We know this. That's not something you're introducing in a conspiratorial way. That's happened a lot. So I would just say we're turning up every stone. We're going to look in all directions to make sure that we have a handle on what happened, how it happened, and what we can do moving forward.
Here's the problem, and the greater discussion away from the PR element of it is that the quicker the turnaround of the testing, the more unreliable the result.
Right.
And when you're playing every day, like the NFL, football has a real advantage here because you've got a week to figure out what the hell just happened.
And their plan in place is to do a test every single day for the first 2 weeks.
That's right, as they ramp up into camp. But when you're talking about week 5 and week 6 of the NFL season, you've got enough time. You've got enough time for most incubation periods, right? To measure whether or not a player is good to go from one Sunday to the next.
Sure.
You're dealing with dated information, and somebody's on the field potentially with the virus in baseball, maybe playing 2-3 games before you get the result you're looking for, maybe as many as a handful. So that's the hard part is the Phillies were waiting on the results yesterday. That was like in the morning.
And we need another day. Let's hold out hope.
They didn't cancel the Tuesday game. Guys, you know your turnaround time. So what, magically it's going to be okay for the Yankees to pop over and play you? Why don't you just send them down to Baltimore now?
This is what we were talking about earlier, yeah. Yeah, no doubt. They blew an opportunity there. But you know who didn't? The Penguins and the Flyers, because they're playing right now.
Yes, they are.
And there's more hockey to be played later. It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9, ESPN Radio. love listening to the color announcers attempt to comment on opposing teams' home runs.
On devastating news.
Or play-by-play announcers, either way, the ones that take it particularly hard, especially in the midst of a rout. Because I have to admit, I think that there's an art to that too. I mean, you're conveying what happened. You have to give an apt descriptor. But at the same time, you can convey your disgust with the results. I mean, you are paid by the franchise covering the hometown team there. It makes sense that you're able to say, and that's deep and gone, and the Braves trail.
Well, and they're also watching it on TV, so they're already kind of pissed off because they're not in their element. So they're more apt when something goes wrong to note.
But can you play that? Can you play that again? That is just rich. It's so funny. It's a beauty.
The clip of the Braves one?
Yeah, oh yeah.
You got to give me a minute.
It's just so good.
Because I'd have to play the whole feature again.
It doesn't matter anyway is fantastic. I listen, I know that a lot of people get upset if you're unable to have a semblance of balance in the broadcast, but I really don't. I don't care when it's if like the Pirates broadcasters are pissed about a loss, it doesn't bother me. I think it's great. No, I mean, call the game and give the other team credit if they do something well. You don't have to whine, but you don't have to exactly be exuberant when somebody goes yard.
This might not be precise, so let me ease in.
Marte can't find it. He looks up. Doesn't matter. That's well out of here. And that's a 3-run homer for Hunter Renfroe. The Rays.
Doesn't matter. That's way out of here.
Marte can't find it. He looks up. Doesn't matter. That's well out of here. And that's a 3-run homer for Hunter Renfroe.
Marte can't find it. Doesn't matter. That's well out of here. That's a 3-run homer for Renfroe.
He can look for it all he wants.
He can keep searching.
That's the line from Major League. He'll need a rocket up his ass to be able to get that one.
No, that's just the best. I love it, especially if you ever have former players for the organization in the booth that have a special kind of almost collegial love for a professional franchise.
Oh, well, I like when they get on their little rants, too. You find out every broadcast team, every year, they have a guy they love or they hate, and they'll give like a million excuses to or zero, and they're already over him. This year, Keith Hernandez is over Robinson Cano, and I can't say I blame him. That was a dumb trade from the beginning. But he's like, notice that Conforto's hitting 7th tonight, and Cano's heading 5th. We'll see how that turns out for Luis making that decision.
They get their jabs in. I mean, you're almost kind of like, my man.
So he did that on Sunday, on Saturday, and then yesterday he goes, notice that Robinson's been taken out for defense these last couple of games here. And
he's just trying to take shot after
they got
shot
the,
after
the
shot.
rookie Jimenez in there.
Little uptick.
And the other guys don't even acknowledge
They
it.
don't
They're
acknowledge
like,
it.
Don't get him started.
He's up
Don't
because they've
do
heard it. They've heard the rant when they go to break. It's you and me. I mean, you're like, okay, if you start complaining to traffic, where's this going? Or time or heat or people or wherever, right? I mean, you know where it's going to go.
So, yeah, he shows up to the ballpark. Gary's already been there for 2 hours because it's his life.
When he's setting up.
And he knows that Keith is about to review the lineup card. Because he doesn't follow it on Twitter. He's about to look at it. He's like,
well, now why?
Why is Conforto? And
Here we go.
3,
2, 1. Right. Because he respects his acumen and he knows it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
Well, it is also objectively dumb, but that's neither here nor there. It's just when you find your broadcast guys, the guys they love, the guys they hate, and the things they have all the time in the world for, and they have less than zero time for, that's the best.
No. Yes, it is. Who was the guy that we drilled on your team that you hated, and none of your
Jordani Valdez.
Yeah, and your announcers had no time for him either. And we drilled him. The whole world knew it was coming. 97 on the elbow, which would normally cause a major ruckus. Your entire bench sat still. They're like,
Yeah, well,
and then your announcers were like, well, you had to know that was coming.
Right.
I mean, they're down 14-0. He's pimping a home run.
Oh, well,
solo shot.
Keith is brutal. Like, there'll be some guys where he goes, well, he doesn't like that call and he shouldn't. And then it's like Aramis Ramirez, who got under his skin one weekend because he complained about everything. He goes, well, he complains about everything. And that may have been a bad call, but you got to get tougher. What are we doing?
Yeah. No, I there's an art to it. You can't really do it in college baseball. That's where I think I'd be poor at that. I'd have a hard time because there would be kids that you'd be like, okay, didn't run the first again, I see. He bobbled that over the short.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would have been interesting. But he may have slipped out of the box.
The guys last night killed. I'm trying to think of who plays third for the Red Sox now. He's not that great of a fielder.
Devers.
Yeah, that's right. Rafael Devers of his foot. They're like, well, that's a gift hit. And I'm like, well,
the ball was
the
hard
exit
hit.
velocity
Yeah.
might have been 105, guys, and he's in. He's playing in at the corner.
He's on the team for his bat anyhow. But yeah.
That's what they get into, and that's a gift hit. And he goes, "Geez, used to be that you go on the road, you never get a gift hit like that." It's, well, fellas,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the replay.
It's
That
not-
is a rocket shot off of his foot. It wasn't a one hopper Sunday hop. I mean, let's have some context here.
Yeah. I don't know if you're doing this, speaking of baseball and just having it back and enjoying this while you can. I'll keep reiterating that throughout the day as we continue to hope, cross our fingers, that the season can go off without a hitch now that we've seen what we've seen with the Marlins. But I had forgotten about the little things of the game that I just adore, and that's one of them. Hearing those calls, they're still funny. It's especially true, again, if a guy bleeds the franchise colors.
Well, we've got an all-timer of somebody turncoating for a little bit later, perhaps. A home run call.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, we'll have to save that. I'd forgotten what you were talking about at first. I was like, oh.
Calling somebody else's home run with gusto.
Yeah.
You probably, that's a tease. You want to stick around, folks, for this one. It's going to be a good one.
Well, it's uncomfortable. I'll just say that. I forgot we're going to use it next hour, but it's uncomfortable. Same way, how about we give you a hint? It's not unlike when a certain University of Florida quarterback was on the lineup card for a certain broadcast team. Mm-hmm. My God.
And you might not have heard it quite this clearly from Gary Danielson, but he was thinking it. He was thinking what you're going to hear in this other clip.
From this announcer, yes. I mentioned before the break that Penguins, Flyers, it's happening now. Now, that's an exhibition game. But, oh, by the way, Maple Leafs, Canadians facing off in prime time, 8 o'clock, NHL Network. There you go.
All right.
And if you stay there at 10:30 at night, you can watch Edmonton and Calgary.
Oh, nice. Way to go with the Canadian
there you go, buddy.
pronunciation.
You got that. Edmonton and Calgary going after it at 10:30 at night. Well, they're hated rivals, I guess. In an exhibition game, you might get a fight. Who knows? But I am looking forward to it.
Tampa plays tomorrow at noon in their exhibition game. I'll be taping it. Yes, I will be taping an exhibition game because these things matter. You're
It's
gonna have,
noon. Yeah.
Yeah, at noon. Did I say wrong time?
No. I'm saying it's noon tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, noon. So this weekend, you're going to have the actual games. They start counting. If you are a top 4 seed in either conference, you play a round robin for seeding. And then if you're one of the others that's in contention, you're playing a best of 5.
Yeah. So the best of 5 series against the Islanders begins on Saturday.
There you go. This weekend, hockey games that count. And they're doing the right thing. So, yes, you might not like hockey, but you've got a lull on your Saturday or Sunday.
Buddy, it's all day long. It's start of your day until the end of your night.
It's
Forget
like what
about it.
Premier League was doing. Again, that might not be your cup of tea, but I'll bet more of you out there watched it than you did this time last year or when they were playing in their season because it's always on.
Well,
hockey's going to be always on.
It'll also win you over. I've maintained for a long time that if you invest, especially in the level of intensity of postseason playoff hockey, which most of this just is, so you're going to be watching a product where the intensity is ratcheted up in a way that is always, I think, to me, a lure. It's something that the first time you hear somebody say they were won over by hockey, invariably it was because they were watching playoff hockey. And that's kind of what, if that's what you're looking to do to get into something new, because listen, the things that you're normally into or looking forward to are just not happening right now.
Yeah.
This is your time, man. I'm telling you, you'll be won over.
Well, and part of that is the crowd atmosphere because every hit sounds like the first hit of the game on a kickoff. You can't wait for the game to start and you light somebody up on the opening kickoff and the place goes nuts. But it's also the physicality. It's brutal. It's a brutal form of the sport that's not usually seen until, I don't know, Game 75 of the regular season. So it's going to be great TV.
I think hearing you describe the kickoff of a football game, it both, A, brings up great memories and a warmth from down deep in the cockles. You feel so good about it. But then at the same time, there's a sadness that's right now attached to anything that involves football discussion. And we had opt-outs today in the NFL. You've got more and more problematic situations arising involving college football, and it's hard not to hyper-focus on that. I will try to steer clear of that for the most part. Here and there, I've got to certainly mention it and have larger discussions about it. But it's you don't want to bring it up every single day.
Well, the NFL's not done either. Tom Pelissero reporting. You listed, 10, 12 players
I think
that are opting out?
12 so far.
Right. So Tom Pelissero tweeted this hour that the number is dozens. There are going to be dozens of players that are going to opt out for this upcoming season. As you pointed out, practice squad guys are thinking, yes, here's my chance to make some money. But the NFL and the NFLPA are working on collective bargaining agreement language to be able to make it happen. And so a lot of these requests are just waiting on the NFL, the NFLPA.
So that's going to be from what I'm reading, $350,000. You get that up front.
If you have a condition that puts you in at-risk group, yes.
And that would make sense. I mean, you can't ask guys with asthma, guys who have underlying conditions that we've referred to before, a heart condition in one case.
Right.
I mean, goodness gracious.
But here's the question I would have. If you're 6'1", 340 pounds, and you're a zero tech, are you in an at-risk category that you automatically get a chance to opt out for $350K?
Certainly those players, no matter how strong, athletic, agile they may be for that size, would probably, I think in almost every case, given that you said they were 6'1", be considered morbidly obese. So by definition, yes.
Oh, you'd be 6'3", 330, and you're probably still in that definition of morbidly obese,
Yeah.
even if you're jacked. I mean, you're going to be hiding it under a lot of roles, right? So I wonder if that puts you in a category, or if you have to have a pre-existing condition that doesn't, it's not determined by your weight and your BMI.
Yeah, you can't just say, I'm a fat ass.
Right.
Look at me.
I'm Vince Wilfork, pay me.
Look at me. Come on. What are we doing here? You're going to make me say it out loud?
Opt out without the pre-existing condition, you still get $150K, from what I understand.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen.
They front you. I think it might be future salary that they front you, but they front you $150,000.
Here's $150,000. I know you were due to make $8.4 million. I know the average guy would say $150,000. Hell yeah, for not doing a thing. That's nice, but boy, that's a tough opt out.
Yeah.
If you got 8.4 coming,
right, you better make sure your mortgage payments are all lined up.
You have saved your money, no doubt. Now, listen, it's your health, it's your life that's at stake, and if you've got people in your family in and around you that are susceptible, I kind of understand. I do understand, but man, that's a very different decision. $150,000 or multi-millions of dollars. About the only guys that I can see doing that are guys with real problems, both with themselves or maybe their wife or their children or somebody very close to them, mothers and fathers, because everybody else is going to take the money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you may end up with 50 guys opt out.
If they're saying dozens, I think that puts it between 35 and 50. Yeah,
I mean, probably about 50 guys who can cite, direct reasons, conditions, and I'm not shaming anybody. I'm just saying those are guys that are going to say, listen, I can't risk it. I've got a young child who has an immune disorder, or my wife, or whatever. Everybody else just about, given that they're in the peak condition of their life and the kind of financial windfall that they stand to bring in for playing the season is such that it's so substantial, they're going to say yes.
What is interesting, and I don't know how this shakes out, I saw it was alluded to today by NFL insiders, but you could put yourself in a position where you lose more money if you opt in and the season gets canceled. Like if you have guaranteed money coming to you. I don't know if there's like a carryover effect or something along those lines that might put some players that have specific guarantees or triggers coming to them. And this might give the team an out. The former lineman for Miami tweeted out, Feliciano, who still plays in the league, and he said, that's what guys are looking at too, is financially, is it actually beneficial for me to just opt out this year, kick in on the contract next year, and allow for some guarantees to vest.
Right, because if you play a game, though, that triggers for the owners.
Right.
I've brought this up last week or the week before, that any number of contractual guarantees, though. I'd like to see what that's pertaining to directly, because that's most of this. If your season starts in terms of service time and everything else, you get upticks in salary. And
you do, yes, you get towards your pension.
Your bonuses and everything, yeah.
But my question would be, let's say you're in year 4 or 5 of your deal, and you play, but there only 3 games are played. So you get 3 out of 16, right, in terms of the ratio of your pay. Well, are you on year 5 now after that?
Yes.
And did you just cost your... Okay, but if you opt out, are you still in year 4 of your contract next year? And so you've preserved that.
Yeah.
It could make a huge difference.
I would think it almost... Yeah, it could. It could. You're going to weigh it against the pension. You're going to weigh
Yeah.
it against how apt you are to re-sign another deal or kick in another clause. It's going to give you a huge salary bonus.
That kind of stuff makes the general fan blind because you get into the accounting
get
and the millions
cross-eyed quick,
and millions,
without question.
and that's the good problem that these guys have.
It's a fun read, but it's not a fun conversation on the air.
This is true. I heard it too as I was talking about it.
Well, no, I realize it is fascinating to you and me, and then I'm like, driving down the road, I don't know. Final hour, forthcoming. Stay with. Hour of the Jeff Cameron Show, at least for today. Thanks for tuning to it. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you get to listen live via the streaming free always. If you miss anything, go back, get caught up at your leisure. We understand. You're busy doing a lot of things. Sometimes you got to go back. You got to find the show, maybe on your morning jog or commute. I got you. We'll post it up there on Apple Podcast. You can find it there or wherever it is you listen to your podcast for the most part, right? Same with find us on Spotify. You can watch us on YouTube. Hello, YouTubers. Good to be with you. Thanks for watching. You want to email the program, feel free, jcs at 979espnradio.com. On Twitter, it's at JCameron Show. You can also utilize, in some cases, the WTSM app. Well, Major League Baseball finds itself in one hell of a predicament. More on that momentarily. All guests appear via the Phone Hero hotline. Phone Hero specializing in iPhone and iPad repair. 2 locations, 2915 Cary Forest Parkway and 833 West Gain Street. Online at phoneherotlh.com. Let's start with Florida State. First things first. Originally, Knowles 247 reporting. Our friend Chris Nee, not all that long ago, earlier today, reporting that it looks like redshirt junior running back Kalon Laybourne will not be on the roster this upcoming season, which would mean good night, thanks for playing. And that sucks because he was, at the time, highly touted, full of potential. 5 stars, 5'11", 208 pounds, Virginia Beach, Virginia. We thought big things lay in wait for him. We got glimpses, just a little bit here and there.
No, yeah, I think precisely what we got of him when he was healthy was cutting back against the grain and running across the field, and then one kick return, and it was over.
That was about the extent of that. He has had his ups and downs here, to say the least. Some of those are not his fault. Those have to do with injuries, which have halted his career significantly. Some of the others would appear to be his fault, where he has been sent home from a bowl game. He's been suspended. He has been told to go home. He's had some issues. So
this is where having Corbin, if we do play this season at all, having Corbin ruled immediately eligible has been a critical development, and now it proves even more critical for the depth chart this year.
Yeah, helpful indeed. And let's just hope. I mean, I think that's where we're at right now. This isn't being negative in any way, but I think we're all just hoping, and it feels like at times against hope, that we're going to find a way. That we're going to find a way to play football. I know the NCAA handed it down, right? They said basically, hey, we can all start week 0. I wish. Go ahead and create path that way to a return. It was a blanket waiver issued yesterday by the NCAA. Excuse me. They emailed conference football officials to inform them that the season can begin on August the 29th for all FBS programs, and we should be so lucky if it is to happen. I don't see a path to that. I don't know how that's going to happen. NCAA Director of Championships Ty Halpin explained in the email viewed by Yahoo Sports originally that the move came in an effort to provide additional flexibility due to the impact of COVID-19. So they're basically saying if you want to start a little early, everybody can.
Right, you build in some bye weeks and flexible dates in case you have to bump some games. I am still of the mindset, I will firmly be of the mindset that although it sounds impossible, I think you should play round-robin formats in 14 pods physically somewhere off campus. We have gotten to the point, clearly, where the message
pods work, yes.
And that they don't care. They don't care, and they're moving forward. That if kids are on campus, off campus, if it looks different, so be it. I think we've already let that ship sail, right? We were debating about it in March and April. How is it possible that an amateur athlete can be put in this particular situation if kids aren't going to be on campus? That, I don't think, is even a consideration anymore for the livelihoods of everybody involved with these athletic departments in the sports. Am I saying it's right? No. I'm just saying the reality is we're trending that way. And if you want to call up Gary Stokan and say, Gary, how much would Chick-fil-A pay you to make you whole, maybe make us whole a little bit more, if we have a big Chick-fil-A logo in Atlanta for a few weeks and we do a round robin? And that's where we host the game. And we'll put kids in hotels there, team-specific hotels, and we'll get them on local high school fields. Do you think Chick-fil-A might be interested in that, Gary? Make a phone call.
Well, I have high hopes that something along the lines of which you just described is even possible, but the logistics sound nightmarish and difficult at this late date to get underway, organized, and correctly executed. We'll see. If they haven't begun those conversations that we don't know about behind closed doors, it's not going to happen. I love the idea of those pods, not just pods in terms of groupings of teams within the ACC that we talked about all of last week at times, but also like physically, can we put people in pods because they seem to work. And the sports that don't have pods, baseball, get to that in a moment, are going to have some problems moving forward. We keep wondering aloud how the NFL possibly thought they were going to be able to go forward without these pods, but
I think it's fanboy fiction. I think I'm just wishfully thinking. I hope that they have more conversations than baseball does about crisis things. If they do, then you've got a fighting chance. But it seems like the Major League Baseball conversations that are obvious just don't happen. They never do. I'm hoping that university presidents and conference commissioners and athletic directors, they get together and they try to find something proactively. And maybe this is the first step, the week 0 thing. It signals that, hey, if you want to put it together, West Virginia, Florida State, get this game in and out before we have enrollment on campus in the fall en masse. Maybe that's the path to do it. Let's get that game played now while we can.
Well, I'll say this. Whenever I listen to – look, I'll give you an example. Ohio State coming out, they made an announcement, obviously. They're going to limit Ohio Stadium capacity to 20% if the games are played. Well, that's cute. In addition, tailgating is banned. Okay, that too is cute.
Saw that coming.
Yeah. Season ticket holders got the email. If you're an Ohio State fan, season ticket holder, you got that email that said, yeah, you can't really come to the games to tailgate, and oh, by the way, only 20% of you are going to be able to come to the games at all, or 20% of the stadium anyhow, can be filled. The school has sold 44,320 season tickets to donors, faculty members, and the general public. Renewal rate of 87% according to figures obtained by the Dispatch. That would be the Ohio Dispatch. Ohio State Athletic Director Gene Smith, who's forever in the news, said in May during a teleconference with reporters that capacity would likely be limited to roughly 20 to 25,000. All right, so when I read these stories, great, but at this point, I don't think, and certainly from what I've read, and what I've heard from behind-the-scenes conversations, talking to sources that would have intel regarding the collective mindset of a university, whether that be an athletic director, whether that be a president, whether that be people in a position of power to make these decisions. It doesn't sound like, at the very least, there's any chance in hell they're playing college football in August. And in terms of games, you can make this announcement.
Yeah.
What happens is the announcements are made to provide a sense of hope, perhaps, and maybe it's a way to avoid talking about the most difficult part of all of this, which is that they're going to have to forego the season. So every day that you come forward and say, oh, look, well, Ohio State's made a decision, 20%. Oh, well, you know what? You can begin practices starting on this date. Or, by the way, if you want to move your games up, you can do that. Oh, if you want to do a conference-only schedule, you can do that. Every day we get an announcement like that is a day we avoid the inevitable. A day where we are able to avoid saying, it's not happening. Look at the numbers. Look at the surge, look at the spike, look at the problems, look at the ethical questions surrounding putting student athletes, I'm not talking about professional athletes, student athletes on a football field. And I feel like they're just trying, obviously, to buy time. But here you go. That sounds like I'm being critical. I'm not. Buy time. Do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Time's your friend here. Do what you got to do. Buy time. Push things back. Stave off the inevitable as long as you possibly can. It doesn't mean I have to believe that anything's going to change, but I'm with you. I mean, push it back, and hope like hell. Out of left field, you get an announcement, A, that they came up with a test that's more efficient, B, or how about A, actually come up with a vaccine, and or B, more efficient ways of testing and protecting. I don't know. Whatever it might be that would allow for some, no doubt, pared down season to happen.
Yeah, what do you know? Flintstone vitamins cure COVID. Right, something ridiculous
something
like that.
Absurd
There's
comes
no
out
way.
of left field. Right. But that's what they're hoping for. This is on a wing and a prayer. Every one of these things that you read on a daily basis about, well, maybe we could do this, maybe we could do that, or it's just never going to happen. None of them. None of these things. None of these things are going to happen.
Iowa State scheduled an opponent, a replacement for the annual Cy-Hawk Trophy game today. Yes. And they said, all right, on September 12th, 15th, whatever it is, we've got a replacement for Iowa. We'll be playing whoever. I think it's a Patsy.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what everybody is. They're looking at right now. The funny thing to me is that if you're going to play August 28th or 29th, That would mean you start camp like Monday? Like, okay, we're really going to greenlight camps for Monday? I mean, could it be that this time next week we have several teams in Power 5 that have in earnest begun acclimation? I mean, can you envision that?
I can envision a level of desperation that sees them attempt that and then disastrous results. I'll say this, the quotes from that story, Smith's quotes for Ohio State, I think mirror kind of my thoughts and what a lot of people's thoughts have been all along. And, we're holding out hope. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, nobody is rooting for the virus. But, quote, 2 months ago, I was optimistic, cautiously optimistic, but I've lost that. So if we have fans in the stands, we'll use CDC guidelines. We just have to figure out what those numbers are, but it's a lot less than I'd hoped for. It's a lot less than I thought. Yes, every day people are getting slapped across the face with this reality. It's that 2 months ago, we all held out hope. What else was there to do? Embrace doom and gloom? No, all you could do was embrace the hope and the thought that maybe the numbers would trend in the right direction, that maybe we would make further advancements in the science, in the medical fields. But it hasn't happened. Now, we've made advancements, but they're not fast enough to save the start of college football season at this point.
Yeah, I think the hard part here is the conferences. And it's not necessarily the fact that they don't talk to each other, because I think certainly the ACC, SEC, and Big 12 are. The Big Ten's made its decision, the Pac-12, but the other three have kind of all stayed pretty much quiet, other than the fact that you've seen indicators that the Big 12 is certainly telegraphing they want to be full steam ahead on time, if not early, to play some of these games. You're hamstrung if you're Florida State to do something on your own. You're hamstrung if you're Iowa State, or if you're somebody up in the Midwest, Michigan, if you wanted to schedule your own things. You can't do that. You're at the beck and call and whim of the deals that are made by your conference with the big networks. I would think this would be a year to allow teams, much like players can opt out in many different sports, this would be an area in which you'd say, if you can schedule some games, we'll put them on the ACC network. We'll put them on the SEC network. Do what you need to do to get it done if you can do it on your own. Because us trying to schedule this whole thing for you with so many different states within our conference footprint, how the hell do they have the staff in North Carolina to do that? There's no way they do.
They don't. Meanwhile, the Miami Marlins season has been suspended by Major League Baseball. We discussed that earlier today, and we're all just holding out hope with baseball right now. I enjoy the games while you can. I'm doing that. You're doing that. And again, I'll try to remain optimistic. That's all you could do was suspend the Marlins for now until they get a better handle on that situation, devise a game plan moving forward. They're going to have to do that. Look, teams are going to have to aim to tighten up the behavior in the dugout, as well as in the clubhouse and on the buses and in between the lines in particular. I saw any number of people hugging after home runs. I saw high fives and embraces and things that would put your season in danger. They're going to have to do a better job. They're not in a bubble. You got to just hope. I mean, you knew there would be outbreaks. Okay, got it. But let's hope that you can weather these storms and then proceed. The whole hope here isn't that you can avoid this. This was going to happen. It's that you can find a way to play through it.
Yeah, there's complete disregard within the dugout culture. Complete disregard. You've got managers. Hello, Kevin Cash. Keep your freaking mask on.
I mean,
dude, just seriously. For everybody else's livelihood. If you don't believe in it, fine. But you know what? It's everybody else's money you're going to mess with.
Well, and I think that a lot of this is so ingrained. I don't even know that this is some sort of – I don't know that it's a politicized thing. I think that these guys are so accustomed after a home run to –
But my point is, it doesn't matter if it is or not. You're messing with somebody else's money at some point, which is what the PGA Tour went through. They're like, hey, Joker, listen, I get that you don't – whatever you believe is fine.
Yeah.
But you're not messing with my money, my caddy's money.
No, all of that, you and I agree on this, and I think – most importantly, people within the league can have differing views. That's fine. But, in order to ensure that we keep playing the game for which we get paid large sums of money, you're going to have to follow these sets of guidelines. And that's just the way it is. And I don't know why you wouldn't do that other than you're a selfish ass. So it seems pretty straightforward.
Not just Cash. He was the only manager, though, who just clearly doesn't wear his mask half the time. I was like, yo, my man.
Well,
what are you doing?
All of them at varying points. And, it's tough, but you got to do it. If you want to play ball, you got to do it. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9, ESPN Radio. I don't remember what I was going to say. It's a hell of a way to start a segment. Well, I have, at the start of any given segment, you guys may know this by now. Here's a further peek on the inside. Tom and I would get incredibly bored if we just stayed to a list, or an outline specific show. I would anyhow. So I don't do it that way. I have a bunch of topics in my mind at the start of every show, and some that I know we have to address, maybe right from the outset, right? Laybourne, for example, today. So you have to address something like that. And then a whole host of other things. Oftentimes they're sports related, some of them aren't, and I just go by feel, kind of the ebbs and flows. It's like making a playlist for a concert. You kind of, depending on the venue, depending on your mood, depending on the region of the country you're in, you may lead, especially if you're a group that has, say, 10 albums, you may lead with an all-time favorite that everybody will get into right from the get-go, or you could save that for the encore. It's up to you. You could go with something more obscure because you think, they get it. They get the deep tracks here. They understand it. We're going to go song 4, side 2. Whatever it is. And on this show, I do the same thing. I'm like, what are we feeling today? Feeling like we got to play it by the book? We got to go straight down the line? Or can we kind of be all over the map and just have long-form discussions, which invariably we do, but what leads those? That's totally by feel, totally by mood. So I think what I was going to do is probably allow for you this time around, Tom, to play the clip that everybody wants us to play with Pete Alonso, just because I'm surprised we didn't hear the play-by-play man say, sir. I'm surprised he didn't, because it's a bit excessive. First, play the clip so everybody can hear this. Listen to this reaction to what was a screaming line drive, one of the hardest hit balls ever recorded at Fenway. Here you go.
Oh, rockets that one. Look at this one. A searing line drive out of here. My goodness.
Oh.
What was
That didn't take long, did it?
time on that thing to get out of the ballpark?
That was ridiculous.
Oh.
It's awfully uncomfortable, especially, do it again.
Oh.
Rockets that one. Look at this one. A searing line drive out of here. My goodness.
Oh.
That's the one. The third one. The tripling down is where you go, all right, dude, let's get it together. Let's gather ourselves.
The great Dennis Eckersley on the mic.
I mean, David Price had a problem with Dennis Eckersley. It's well documented. I never have up until this moment.
Oh.
Rockets that one. Look at this one. A searing line drive out of here. My goodness.
Oh.
That's the opposing team. What are you doing, my man?
So the home broadcast crew for radio and television are the only ones that are in the building. And they will stay in their own stadiums when their teams are in different stadiums. It's kind of bizarre. I saw some photos from the Mets network last night. It is pitch black over the field.
Yeah.
So you're literally in a room with blacked out windows, it looks like.
Very strange.
And you've got TV monitors from
bunches of them. Yeah.
Fenway Park in their case. So Eck, the only way he could react the way he did was because he was in the building and he saw it with his own 2 eyes. That was
he did.
Absolute line drive home run.
Missile, no doubt. It was a missile. It was.
Oh.
Rockets that one. Look at this one. A searing line drive out of here. My goodness.
Oh.
The call is excellent, if not being interrupted by the orgasmic groans of Dennis Eckersley. Can we avoid this, please, sir? Can we listen to how good this call is?
Oh.
Rockets that one. Look at this one. A searing line drive out of here. My goodness.
Oh.
Dennis, stop! Stop! Let it go! Put your pants back on! What are you doing, sir? It's baseball!
You know, I always wanted to hang a slider and have that happen to me.
That is just uncomfortable. Don't do that. Just allow. See, the late, great Lee Bone would have been furious at that moment. You just trampled all over the call. You can't do it. And not only did you trample all over the call, you did so with inappropriate verbiage.
With a Howard Stern bit, thank you very much.
Yeah, can we avoid all of that? Now, that ball was hit. Now, if we're just going to talk about the home run, I mean, sweet Jesus. It's hard to square one up quite like that.
If there was a home run this year that was going to go through one of the cardboard cutouts, that was your candidate because that's where the seats are for the monster. So
Right.
it's just in the line of fire. But yes, it reminded me of a home run I saw Cliff Floyd hit years and years ago.
All he hit were screamers.
To straightaway center at Pro Player, at Joe Robbie, whatever you want to call it. That's like 430 straight away, and it took about that amount of time to get out. Other than that, I haven't seen a true bullet leave the park quite like the one Pete hit last night.
Those are my favorite home runs, by the way, that they're just on a line and, you go, say, 400 out to straightaway center, and it's a line drive. You realize that thing has a ways to go yet. It's just that it's not majestic. It's not a moonshot. Yeah.
Well, and that home run that Pete hit last night was the third hardest since StatCast did the exit velocity thing. I think it was
Stanton and Judge.
116.3 was what Pete hit it. And some of those launch angles are different, though. So I would argue that that's probably the hardest home run hit out of Fenway
Well,
since
it barely
StatCast,
gets out. You're kind of thinking it's not going to get out at first.
given that it's the line drive.
Yeah.
Now, there may be some exit velocities because you know how Stanton does and Aaron Judge does.
Ooh.
They'll hit it another 50, 60 feet in the air and still have that speed for the exit velocity.
Well, the one the other night from Stanton, that's 458.
He hit one 480 the next night, apparently.
That home run is insane. You know what, by the way, the next night's home run, if you were watching the broadcast, they just need to either recalibrate their equipment or get rid of it. It popped up as 414.
Did it really?
Yeah, it wasn't until like a few minutes later they went, looks like we made a mistake there.
Well, they changed their technology. I think it was TrackMan last year. Now it's Hawkeye, which was the tennis thing forever and a day.
Yeah.
Tracing it down to the millimeter, the nanometer of whether the serve
the
was in or
one
not.
you've questioned its validity, yes.
Well, the people at Major League Baseball hate it so far. They say it's worthless. It doesn't give you what the Amazon Web Services sponsorship, the details you want.
So
it's being
you mean they don't-
calibrated on the fly.
Yeah, so they don't like it. You mean the initial?
The initial returns
Yeah.
so far, well, not even meaning like they'll correct it 5 minutes after, meaning it should be working like straight away. This is what you pay for this thing to work immediately, and they like the TrackMan more so far. It may get better. But
All right, go back to the TrackMan, whatever it is. But yeah, I laughed. They said 414, and just eyeballing the home run Stanton hit, the other one, the 480. You're looking at that going, that's a lot more than 414. I mean, I'm sitting here, I don't know, but that is, I don't know, 150 feet above the fence.
I'm still of the mindset as he's hit a couple that are just absurd, and would be nice to watch him play again. Maybe they will tomorrow in Baltimore, but I don't think the ball is as juiced as it was last year. I don't think so. We are in the dead of summer with heat indices, and temperatures as high as they can be. I'm not seeing ridiculous home runs off of the end of the bat or broken bats or trademark shots that are going 420 like last year.
No, I'm not seeing the cheapie. You know, it's interesting, and I think it's a good point you bring up here because I like gauging these sorts of things from somebody who is now learning the game and isn't as jaded as we are from watching it over the years, certainly not nearly as suspicious as we are when we watch Major League Baseball games. Bryce, my oldest son, he plays baseball, likes baseball, he's decent at baseball, he's getting better all the time, and he's working really diligently to become a better hitter. And he's learning techniques, and he's learning certain aspects of hitting, and he certainly knows what it is to barrel one up because when I'll pitch to him, I'll get in his kitchen, and like, I got in your kitchen. He gets mad, and he's like, I couldn't clear, whatever it is, He'll start talking about hitting, and I can tell he's learning. So when he sits down and watches baseball games with me, he'll see like the sheer strength of some of these hitters. Because what he'll notice is an opposite field line drive double in the gap. And in real time, he'll say, he didn't even get that. He'll say it, and I'll say, what do you mean? And I know what he means, but I want him to explain. And he'll go, that he didn't get that off the barrel. He goes, that's just right of the barrel. Watch. And then we watch the replay, and he's like, he's just strong. I'm like, yeah, he is just strong. And it'll be one of the bigger, stronger hitters or somebody with wicked fast bat speed. And you're like, that's just, he gets the barrel of the bat through. And we'll talk about it. But, last year, Tom, he saw home runs, and he would get downright, angry. He'll say things like, that shouldn't have been a home run. That's a good pitch. He that's in on his hands. That ball shouldn't leave the yard. That's not right. get angry. I go, well, there are hitters in the history of the game. I mean, Babe Ruth famously swung a big stick, and that was a guy that hit home runs that were, something that nobody else in the league could do because he was also a giant for the times.
Right.
So if it comes off the bat of one of those kind of guys, and I was explaining to him what it was like when I was a kid watching the likes of Dave Kingman. Kingman would go out there and strike out a gazillion times a year, and he'd hit 220, but he'd also hit 50 home runs when nobody else was. And
Modern player in a non-modern era.
Right,
Yeah.
and you would watch these these days where Kingman would hit 3 home runs famously against the Dodgers, and we get the commentary but from Tommy Lasorda, but Kingman would hit home runs where everybody in the building would go, well, that's not normal. That's a big man, And I was explaining to him that sometimes it's just a guy is really strong and he gets the bat through the zone quickly. Other times, that's probably the ball or steroids, Bryce.
Yeah.
That could be steroids.
So from Quarantine, Director Matthew texted me, says that the Adam Duvall home run that was hit at City over the weekend that went off the facing of the upper deck had him questioning whether or not the ball was juiced. And I hear him. That was a moonshot. But our pitching was terrible, throwing meatballs over the plate. And again, if your heat index is somewhere in the 90s and it's still 8:30, 9 o'clock at night.
And you groove one down the heart.
And you groove one. There are a lot of bullets so far. I mean, the one that Yoenis hit on opening day is an absolute seed.
You're seeing extremes. To answer this, what I've noticed, you may have seen a little bit more baseball than me over the weekend, although I did watch a lot of baseball, was able to kind of relax on the beach and do that. And I certainly went back and caught up because I knew that a lot of what we have to talk about right now is baseball. And I'm cherishing these games because I just don't know, given our discussion of the Marlins situation and the Phillies situation, how many of these we're going to have. But what I see is either a dominance from a pitching staff where the at-bats are ugly. There's a lot of guessing, a lot of 3-pitch at-bats where they get set up. They pitch them backwards. You see hitters look terrible. Or I see relievers well behind where they normally be. Their velocity's not quite right, their location's not quite right, and they're grooving balls that are just being pounded.
Yeah.
I mean, these are center cut, belt high. That's not where that's got to go, and he's too good a reliever to leave that there. And you'll see, I've seen certain relievers whose stuff we know to be really, really good when right, miss over the heart of the plate 5 and 6 times in an inning. And they're lucky they can give up 4 home runs in an inning. I've seen balls hit 440 feet foul, and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, no, I think everybody is on week 3 of their spring training.
Yeah,
they
just
really
look
are.
like there's just extremes.
You see terrible at bats.
Oh.
I mean, terrible at bats.
Yeah, well.
And then you see helicopters. Keith said it last night during the game. I didn't watch the ESPN, please. And he's like, are they doing helicopter tours tonight? I've never seen so many cement mixers over the heart of the plate.
Right.
I was like, yeah, I agree. There's just a lot of hung baseballs all over the place.
I really do think what we're getting in that first weekend of baseball, the first week of baseball, are just extremes. You see really well-pitched games where the hitters look years behind. They've got no shot. You're just like, they could play 20 innings. They're not going to score more than a run tonight. They've got nothing, especially teams, obviously, with deep pitching staffs. And then other nights you just go, okay, well, this final is going to be 12-9 because it could be worse if they square them up. Pirates bullpen right now. A lot of balls right down the heart of the plate. Hurt your feelings.
So which one is more painful? Because you guys are
4-run lead in the 9th yesterday.
All right.
Yeah,
or
toughie.
bases empty, 2 strikes, 2 outs, Oppo home run to tie the game. Because you know what's happening. Like you've already, by the time they scratch across the 3rd run, I know that it's the tying run is at 2nd with 2 outs and Ryan Braun's at the plate.
Yeah.
But there's
whom I hate, which you know.
The shock value of that process is not there. By the time Ryan Braun steps in the box, you've gone through 10 to 15 minutes of hell anyway.
Well, at that point, I've already decided it's...
How about your closer sucked so bad last year he had a 7+ ERA? He gets a save on day 1. Day 2 comes back out there, retires 2 strikes, 2 outs. Oppo, tie ball game. I feel like that hurts more. I feel like it does.
I think you're probably right. I think when I watch the Pirates now, I go, our closer is Keone Kela. Yeah, he's got COVID, so we're rolling up slappies. And we lost our closer last year to child molestation. So we've gone from the most dominant closer in the game, molesting children, and now out of baseball and in prison, or soon to be in prison.
I had forgotten about that.
Yeah, he was really good. As in the best closer in baseball until he decided to molest children. So, screw him.
May have
He's
been
gotta
molesting
go.
children before he became the best closer in baseball.
Awful
Probably
human being.
happened.
Awful human being. I'm just saying what we lost. What we lost is significant. I'm not saying it's not warranted. he should go to jail for life if he did it. Screw him. Somebody beat him to death in prison. I'm fine with that. If he did it. Now, that said, he was a significantly good closer, and he's gone, just like that. So then you elevate Kela, who's really good, and he had lights out stuff in spring, and we're like, okay.
What was the closer's name?
The one from last year?
Yeah, the good one.
We changed his name. He changed his name.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember.
All right, let's call him Smith just to be, PC.
Yeah.
Well, we lost Smith for the year. What, Tommy John? Damn it.
Child molestation.
Oh, well.
Adapt or die, guys. We got to move on. Here we go. Kela, you're our
Skip,
guy.
are you
Here
serious?
Here we go. No more questions. So Kela comes in, and he gets the COVID. So now, Slappy, here we go with Rodriguez and the rest of these bums.
Hey, he gets his 2 negatives, and you're good to go for 6 weeks.
Well, and in the meantime, we give up 4-run leads in the ninth.
Or until the sports shut down.
Yeah.
Whatever comes first.
It may very well be insignificant. Dear friend of mine, I have multiple friends that are Boston fans and a wife who's a Red Sox fan. And they asked me over the weekend, are we going to pitch like this all year? Is this the kind of pitching that – I'm like, that's the kind of pitching you got in Boston. This is going to be a disastrous year. Yeah, you can't pitch.
Yeah, so they ran an opener out there, and the worst thing that could have happened to him was he got 2 non-traditional outs. He picked off a runner, and then we had a guy try to go from first to third on an infield ground out or a fielder's choice into the shift. So he tried to get in a foot race with Bogarts, and he lost the foot race. So he's at 9 pitches. He was only supposed to go an inning. He comes out for the second inning. We hit a 2-run bomb. That's just unlucky. I hate it for him.
You were heartbroken.
They have a guy, though, in the middle of it. He's a weird-looking guy. He looks like an undersized D3 linebacker. He's got like a little bit of a mullet going, right? And he grunts after every pitch he throws, but he's got some nasty battle to him. I think they've got a good 3-starter. They might have a good 3-starter. He went like 5 innings. He was good. Forget his name, though.
We'll come back and wrap it up. We'll do so with probables. We've got some games, damn it. I couldn't remember that he changed his name to Vasquez. It's Felipe Vasquez is who I was talking about, the all-star closer for the Pirates from last year, who was busted on solicitation of a child. She was 13. He was 28.
That's no good.
That's a tough deal there.
Zach Godley was the pitcher for the Red Sox.
We're like the shows on ESPN, all 6 of them that follow the same format where they have somebody correct the mistakes of the hosts.
Well, Stat Boy got his own gig, and so he can have his weird hair on around the horn every day. That is just—it's bizarre. It looks like modern art every day atop his dome.
It's the greatest gig in the world, right? I'm sure he's paid handsomely to really not have to work that hard.
And Max Kellerman found his way around, because he was originally the host of that show. Next topic, and then he got fired.
Not about that, yeah.
They ran him out to Fox. He did well on radio in L.A.
Yeah, he did.
And then he made it all the way back.
He's better as a co-host out in L.A. than he is at anything else. I think he's really good at that.
So at the time that Max originally hosted that show and they rolled it out, Stephen A. was a presence on ESPN. They both get booted, and now they're both making a lot of freaking money.
Stephen A.'s nighttime talk show, if you will, was a disaster. That was one of the worst shows that ESPN has ever put forth. That was what was the name of the show?
Oh, the TV show?
Yeah, TV show.
Quite frankly.
That was awful.
Yeah.
That was awful.
That was right after they gave Lupica his old show.
Which was also awful.
His own show, I should say. Yes, it was.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, you just got to find the right format. Got to find the right, you got to know what that guy's calling is.
Yeah. I think, unlike the sitcom industry, they don't look at a bunch of things and say, all right, that's not going to work, that's going to work. They say, you know what, let's put them all on the air and figure it out on the air.
Figure it out on the fly. We have a need for 24-hour programming. We got to do something here, guys. Throw them on wherever. We'll see if it catches on. And sometimes it does. All right, let's go. Let's get to probables.
It's time for, how you say, with the pitching, probables?
White Sox Indians second game of a doubleheader tonight. Carlos Rodon, Adam Plutko going for the Cleveland Indians. We've got the Yankees and the Phillies not going to be played tonight.
That's correct.
Philadelphia giving everybody COVID.
You think it was the Phillies?
Yeah, I blame it on the Phillies. Blue Jays Nationals, Tanner Roark.
Roark from Good.
Yeah, he is. Austin Voth going for the Nationals. And let me tell you something about Austin Voth. On MLB The Show, you can light him up like a Christmas tree. My Pirates have pounded Washington every time he comes in. We were down the other night, 3-1 in the 7th. They brought in Austin Voth. Double, triple homer. I was like, get you some, Austin Voth.
You almost had the cycle in 4 consecutive at-bats.
It was unbelievable. He's just throwing meatballs. It's the second time this year Voth has come in. And I had Polanco go off the wall one time, and I had Josh Bell at a 452-foot home run. Every time I play the Nats, I'm like, throw some Austin Voth out there. Although their lineup is hell to pitch to in the game. It's impossible. You really are. They just present problems because they have so many power-hitting lefties, too, on that roster.
Is it this year's version or last year's version?
Yeah, no, it's this year's version.
So Rendon is off the team, and they're still hard to pitch to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, they got all the players on the right. And they give you roster updates throughout the year. So if something changes or somebody gets signed, they update it for you. So, yeah, it's an awesome game. But their lineup pisses me off because they can pitch, too. So they'll roll out Strasburg on your ass, and then you've got this lineup, so you know you can't hold them to under 3 runs, and you're probably not going to hit him. You have to hope. I used to sit away. I figured it out. I have to sit middle of the plate and hope he makes a mistake at the right time because you're not going to hit the other pitches. They're going to be so on the corner, on the black, and he mixes them up so much. Occasionally he'll groove one, and you just have to hope either you got a guy
trying to ambush a first pitch, get me over.
First pitch fastball. That's what I do. Cubs, Reds, Alec Mills, Tyler Mahal. We did that last year. Braves, Rays. Woo! Atlanta. Got the break speed off you last night. That game's not competitive. We may just have to switch on over to the Rays permanently. That is impressive. That Rays team vastly superior. Kyle Wright goes tonight for the Braves. Second chances. Chino's going for the Rays. We got Brewers, Pirates. Chinos.
He did some time in Chino.
Chirinos. What did I say? Chinos? Chirinos. I'm not even paying attention. Brewers, Pirates. Josh Lindblom. No doubt will shut down the Pirates' less than formidable offense. And Derek Holland is still pitching in baseball, and he's a starter for your Pittsburgh Pirates. Ouch. Well, he's our 5 starter. He got kicked out of the game the other night while sitting in the stands. Good start. I enjoyed that. And our manager subsequently got kicked out for defending him.
Oh, that's why that fight started?
Yeah, it was a good... Holland wasn't wrong. The home plate umpire was a mess. One batter before that, he had struck out a guy low knee-level strikes, all of them, and then that pitch, his first pitch right there, and Holland had something to say about it.
Robot umpires, man. You had so many, experienced umpires opt out this year. Joe West, of course, was not one of them.
Fat ass.
But I think you're going to see worse calls, worse pitches called strikes, worse pitches called balls than ever before, and robot umpires are going to get the momentum they need to happen.
There you go. That's what the shortened season's going to give us. Orioles, Marlins not going to happen, thanks to the Phillies. Royals, Tigers. Kyle Zimmer, TBD for the Tigers. Mets, Bo Sox, 7:30. All right. Got it on SNY. Got it on Nesson. It's going to be David Peterson. Nobody knows who that is. Matt Hall. Nobody knows who that is. Cardinals, Twins, Carlos Martinez, Homer Bailey. D-backs, Rangers, Merrill Kelly, Kyle Gibson. Man, that D-backs team is...
You know who looked good last night?
Who?
Michael Wacha.
Yeah, for 5 innings. He looked real good.
He looked good.
Yeah.
What in the world?
I saw a stat on the D-backs. I think they've 28 walks already this season. Ooh.
Oh, my.
Oh.
As in issued?
Issued, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Not what you do there. No. Dodgers, Astros, Walker Buehler.
Trapper keeper.
Nicely done. Framber Valdez going for the Astros. Rockies, A's, Antonio Sensatella. Daniel Mengden. Mariners, Angels, Justin Sheffield, Patrick Sandoval. Padres, Giants, Zach Davies, Jeff Samardzija. And that is a look at those that shall reside on the bump.
The summer wind came blowing in from across the sea.
The Padres' brown pinstripe uniforms are awesome.
The Padres have been probably the most fun to watch at the start of this season. That's a good young team and a fun team to watch play. And you're right, the throwbacks are gorgeous.
They are. I think the 2 winners from year to year are the Padres and then the Brewers, team you're playing. That they've gone to that darker blue with the gold color.
Yeah, no, I like the Brewers.
Outstanding.
Yeah, I like the Brewers uniforms. I hate the team so much that I begrudgingly say that, but I absolutely have to say that. When I saw them last night, I thought, oh, good-looking uniforms.
Phasing
Screw
out
you.
like the late 90s, early 2000s St. Louis Rams gold. If you phase that out and put some yellow there instead, that's in. It looks good right now. That gold can go, and that's what the Brewers did.
I hope they lose the remainder of their games in those cool uniforms. I just hate them.
Hey, the way this season's going, not COVID talk, like just the 60 games, anytime the American League wins an interleague, I think we're all happy.
That's
like,
true.
Good.
Yeah,
good. Anytime
good,
somebody in your
good.
division, I mean, you're
Yeah.
scoreboard watching from night 1.
I forget that, too. Good work out of you. Good work, Matthew. Real quick, as we did at the beginning of the show, we'll do again here at the end of the show. Thoughts, well wishes, and all the love in the universe heading Blaine Thomas's way as he continues to recover after having been shot in North Carolina. We, of course, have mentioned that before, but I just want to end the show with the same thought, same positive thought that we had at the beginning of the show. So there's that. You guys have a great night. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Take care.